Hello everyone, welcome to IGCSE Passion. For the day, as I promised earlier, I'll be solving topical questions on 2020 and 2023, uh, chapter 7, which is talking about human and animal nutrition in biology or 610. So this will be part 1 and I'll be filming another video, so stay tuned. And I've explained this lesson earlier, and I'll be linking it in the description box so you can have a look on it. Starting with question 1, a person ate a meal containing both starch, wait, let me just use my pencil, starch and fat. Here we have in this table some events that would occur after ingesting this meal. So here we have a keyword which is ingesting. Now, when they say the word ingesting, they mean that you had taken in the food through your mouth. So we will follow the sequence that we want to follow through just placing the letters according to the correct sequence. They've made for us one which is R. So R is saying breakdown of large food particles by the teeth. So let's just imagine what would happen when you place the food inside your mouth. Firstly, you would crush it with your teeth. But later on, what would happen? You want to mix it with the saliva so it can go down to your stomach. So we will search for something related to saliva or breaking down of starch because starch is broken down firstly in the mouth and then in the small intestine. So R is gone. P does not contain any information about the mouth. Q as well. R is used. S does not contain anything. And T is the second step. After that, it is crushed like the amylase, crushed down the starch in the food from the salivary gland. The food will obviously go down through the esophagus. So that is related to S. So RTS is our first three letters. You place them inside the box, and then after going down the esophagus, what will happen? Obviously, absorption of nutrients first will happen, then assimilation. Now, the steps would go as assimilation would never happen without absorption because of the definition. So, going back to the definition of assimilation, I'm going to type it right here so you can just recall it. It is taking in um, absorbed uh, nutrition, nutrients, and sorry, um, okay, absorbing of nutrients, um, and it would become part of the cell. So it would go through your bloodstream and it would later on become part of the cell and it will get used. Okay? So obviously you need to first of all absorb and afterward you would assimilate. So the sequence is RTSPQ. Okay? Going to part B of this question, the stomach lining contains cells that secretes protein. Okay? I is telling us state the name of two cell structures that are involved in making or secreting proteins. So we have two parts of the cell itself that makes the protein. So, or let's say secretes the protein. Firstly, the protein is formed from amino acids. And how does that happen? It is related to the ribosomes. So we have ribosomes inside the cell. Put in mind that they are talking about the cell. So we have the Golgi apparatus. We have also the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes. And you can even say the nucleus, but I prefer to say only the rough endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, or the Golgi apparatus in your answer, unless the question required more than 2 marks. Okay? And you don't, I guess, you do not really need to know the process of protein synthesis. I'm not really sure about that, but mainly you would know exactly how does that happen in A levels. Now going to question II, state the name of one component of the gastric juice and describe its functions. Now, the gastric juice is the juice that is inside, or like the chemical inside your stomach. What does it contain? It contains different stuff, including the uh, pepsin, and which is the enzyme for proteins, and HCl. So I chose the HCl as it contains more points, and it is one of the things that have been. Sorry, I thought that I'm just drawing with my pen. Okay, it is the one that contains more points than the others, and you can cover the 3 marks easily. So first you state the name. So the first part is telling you to say the name, which is HCl or hydrochloric acid. I prefer to prevent writing the abbreviations and start writing it as a whole so that you can take the mark to make sure that like there's nothing related to abbreviations and stuff like that. And then they want you to describe its function. So firstly, it kills microorganisms. Secondly, it creates optimum pH for the enzyme to work properly because pepsin requires a very, very acidic condition, and HCl would do what it is required. Going to question triple I, there are goblet cells in many parts of the alimentary canal. So the goblet cells are the cells, I guess, that produce mucus, or I guess it's mucus. So state the substance that the goblet cell secretes. Obviously, mucus, as I said, and you get the mark. It is only 1 mark. When they say state usually wouldn't require more than a mark. So that is a great question for you to receive more marks in your exam. Going to question C, emulsification of fat occurs in the alimentary canal. Describe the process of emulsification of fat. Now, this is an extended paper, obviously, and you can find it in the syllabus. It is part of the extended, and they've written it in steps if you want to memorize it from the syllabus itself. But I've got the answer from the mark scheme, so you won't really need to refer back to the syllabus. I'm going to use blue, I guess, or green. Because yellow, I've been using it for keywords in the question itself, so I'm going to use blue. First step is fat mixes with bile. Okay, so bile is related to emulsification. It is produced by the liver. It would get mixed in the duodenum. Then it breaks down large fat globules into small ones, like large particles into smaller ones. This is a physical digestion. That is why we consider it as a physical one, because the fat wouldn't change, but the size only would change. So it is the physical um, structure of the fat that will change, not its chemical state. Later on, the surface area will obviously increase. So the purpose of emulsification is to increase the surface area of the fat so it can be absorbed in the small intestine. Question double I. State the name of the organ in the alimentary canal where fats are emulsified. So it is, as I said earlier, the duodenum. State the name of the structure in the villi where digested fats are absorbed. Now, I can recall that I placed a photo in the PowerPoint that I did earlier, which looks like finger. And here we have this part known as the lacteal, and here we have our blood capillaries that cover it, so to have furthermore surface area of absorption to increase. So this part is the one that absorbs fat, and this one is called lactin. Going to question 2. So, figure 2.1 is a vertical structure of human molar teeth and surrounding structure. State the name of each. You need to memorize the structure, the cross section of a tooth. So, A is the enamel. It is a very tough tissue. It is one of the most toughest tissues in your body. Then B, which is the dentine. It requires nutrition and stuff. So from where does it get that, it would receive that from C, which is the pulp cavity, which contains nerves and stuff like that. And lastly, D is pointing at the gum. Now, how do you know whether this one is the gum or the cement? Now, the cement is this one. Let me just write it for you here. This one is the cement, while D is the gum. It is further away. So that's why we call D the gum. And here you got the 4 marks easily. Going to part B, describe and explain. Wait, these two are very important. Describe, first of all, and then explain the function of a molar teeth. Now, this photo is representing the molar that they're talking about. So, molar is that tooth that is at the very back of your mouth. It's not the one at the front, it is at the back. So, this one is used for physical digestion. Now, all teeth are used for physical digestion. But because they said describe, so we would say that it is related to physical digestion. It bends. Now, this is the job of the molar itself. Like, there's no other teeth rather than the premolar that can grind down the food to increase the surface area. So, here we explain another thing, and this one is describing its job. So, enzyme can work properly. This is another explanation, as well as mixing it with saliva. So here I've got 4 marks and the question requires 3 marks. Now they would look at the very first three that are correct. So put in mind that if you're not very sure about the point that you want to add, keep it at the end and write the ones that you are very sure about so you can take the mark. Prevent writing the wrong answer that you are not really sure of at the start. Going to question 3, milk is a source of some nutrients that are part of a balanced diet. Okay, they're talking about the balanced diet. Let's go back to the pink. Okay. A, calcium and proteins are two nutrients found in the milk. So we have calcium and proteins in our milk. Describe the importance of calcium and protein in the diet. So make sure that you've read that they have listed down what you should start with and what you should end with. So you should start with the calcium and then talk about the protein right in front of each, like the points of each. So calcium, you should just write in this place. Don't bypass that. And the same goes for protein. So calcium, as they said earlier, they want the importance of each. They don't want what can happen later on, but due to having 4 marks, you need to know exactly what would happen. It have been written down in the syllabus as itself, so you can just check it out. And you can check my video again, which is linked in the description box, where I explain this chapter fully, based on the syllabus of 2023 and onward. So calcium is there for strength of bones and teeth. Here's a mark, and it prevents rickets. Now, this is memorization, like I cannot explain further more about that. Going to protein, it is there for growth and repair of tissues, as well as making antibodies or making enzymes. You can state any of these points and get the 4 marks. Now, going to be lactose is found in cow's milk. Some people do not have enzymes to digest lactose. State the name of two organs associated with the alimentary canal that produce enzymes. So, what do we have also associated? Like, they didn't say that they want an organ that produced. They said that's something that is associated with the alimentary canal. So, the most correct ones are the pancreas and the salivary gland. And you can find in the mark scheme that they have added as well the stomach, but I felt the stomach was not that suiting for this question, as I felt that okay, it's part of the alimentary canal, but I felt like associated meant more that something that is not part of the alimentary canal, but it is connected with it, like accessory glands such as the salivary gland. Going to question 4. Okay. State 3 uses of energy in the human body. Now, I've chosen the active transport, growth, and respiration. All of these can be in the human. Now the mark scheme, I felt that there was a mistake in it. They also added the transportation, the movement in the phloem, but the phloem is not in the human. It is in the plants. So I felt that this answer was wrong. I'm not really with it, but at the end of the day, the mark scheme have added it. So it goes back to you. I feel that like writing the very correct answers is much more better than writing ones that are not very um, specific for this question, as they have stated that it's talking about the human body, not the plants. So I have written as I will repeat. Have written active transport, growth, and respiration. Now going to be here we have this diagram A, which I'm gonna leave it right now, I guess, so you can just recall. A is the esophagus. Oh God, I hope that's not wrong. Oh, it's wrong. Okay, esophagus. Anyways, I don't really need to write it. Um, L is the gallbladder, K is the liver, B is the stomach, C is the pancreas, H is the duodenum or the small intestine, G is the colon or the large intestine, D is uh, also the small intestine. What do we have? F, I guess you don't really need to know it even, like it's not part of your lessons. E is the anus, and you can also call it the large intestine. Like you don't really need to specify according to the more scheme of this paper. So starting with question one, um, pushes food to the stomach is obviously the esophagus. Wait, let me just use my highlighter. I prefer to use the highlighter. Esophagus, and the letter is A. So I prefer to write first of all the name, and then you can just write the letters later on, because if you want to keep on referring to the image each with each question, you will need more time. So just by answering and just looking at the photo at the end would be easier for you. Assimilation of amino acid is obviously liver assimilation from the name and the amino acids right there. Storage of bile is the gallbladder. It is storage, not making. Secretion of insulin, pancreas. Absorption of fatty acid and glycerol is the small intestine. Secretion of pepsin is the stomach. Digestion of starch is small intestine. Now, going to question 5, I guess this is the very last question, but it contains more than one part. So, B is telling us that figure 3.2, the structure, shows a drawing of a cell from the lining of the small intestine. The lumen is the space inside the intestine where food is digested. State the name of three labeled structures and describe the wall of each. And the question, I guess, contains 6 marks, as each naming contains a mark and each description contains 1 mark as well. So I'm gonna just label, as I have written earlier, I've labeled it on the drawing itself, and then I've answered. So they told you that it is part of the small intestine, so obviously this is microvilli. Some people would make mistake and think that it's part of the trachea because it looks like the cilia in the trachea, but it's not. So always check the words, like they have written intestine in several places. So make sure that you have read the question clearly so you won't make mistakes. So this one is obviously the microvilli. This one is a mitochondria from its shape. Here, because there is ribosomes on its surface, that shows that it is a rough endoplasmic reticulum or RER. So A is, as I said earlier, microvilli. What is the role of the microvilli? Is to increase the surface area. So it allows movement of substances into the cell. It increases the surface area of absorption as well. State that it is related to absorption. Okay, going to B is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. As you can see, there is ribosomes, and as we said earlier, ribosomes is related to protein synthesis, so it's a site of protein synthesis, and it contains ribosomes on the surface. C is mitochondria. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, as we know, as we all know. And the job, and how does it do this thing? It performs aerobic respiration. Why? To make ATP, which is the energy that is used by any cell. Now, going to the very last question. Now, this one is related to cholera, which have been, I guess, it have been moved from chapter 7 to chapter 10, but I'm not really sure. So let's stick with talking about chlorides right here. Sorry, cholera right here. So figure 3.3 shows the effect of toxin. The arrow indicates the direction of movement. The toxin stimulate the secretion of iron X out of the intestine cell. See the name of iron X. Now, as we said, cholera is more related to chloride, so the answer for one is the I, which is chloride. Going to question II, describe the effect on the body of the secretion of iron X into the lumen of the intestine. Now, as we know, cholera causes dehydration, diarrhea, severe diarrhea, and the loss of water. So I just reorganized it to have the whole three marks. It is by secretion of iron X. Of it will cause the loss of water from the guts. This will happen by what? By osmosis and down the water potential gradient, causing severe diarrhea and dehydration. Now, this one you would get a mark, this one also a mark. Here you got 4 marks if you use this answer. And I guess that is all for the day. Stay tuned for part 2 and don't forget to subscribe. See you!